Games suck. Nowadays, they feel more like advertisements and cash grabs than passions or hobbies, leaving players begging for a company that genuinely cares about its community, listens to feedback, and puts passion into their new releases. Take Activision's catastrophic failure that is Black Ops 7, seeing all-time lows when it comes to player count. It's not just because the franchise is becoming dated or getting old. They've released 24 mainline games and historically been a major studio for gaming, setting the bar extremely high. For example, their release of Modern Warfare 2 in 2009 grossing over $400 million, and not long after, with the release of Modern Warfare 3 only just a few years later, launching with over 6 million sales in the first 24 hours. This just comes to show how far they've truly fallen, and when all we wanted in the first place was for them to go back to the basics. Bungie's recent events have put into perspective just as easily that gaming has not been the same space for passionate studios and developers alike. Having gone from fan favorites like the Halo series and the original Destiny game, seeing all-time highs for the studio. Now jump to 2026, and they are putting Destiny 2's development behind them to try and recoup their losses. This isn't entirely their fault. Being forced by Sony's hand to meet quotas, perpetually stuck since the sale of their studio in 2022, they weren't able to keep both Sony and the player base happy, releasing too little too late year after year, and eventually becoming so financially unviable, they had to abandon the once successful project once and for all. Also, look at the issues following the boom of AI. I mean, what is even going on in the console scene right now? I also want to say that I don't entirely blame the developers or even really the companies behind these games, and many others like it. It's always the same story about the same road leading to the same place. Digital Extremes came remarkably close to financial failure before Warframe became successful. Fans and media alike admired the comeback story of a generation and acknowledged the hardship and sacrifices that they made. During the 2000s, Digital Extremes mainly survived as a contract studio, meaning work for hire, helping develop games for larger publishers such as the Unreal series, BioShock 2 multiplayer, as well as some others. The studio had long wanted to create its own original game, and that's when an early concept eventually became Dark Sector. However, because of publisher demands, significant changes to the project were made, leading to its untimely failure. After Dark Sector underperformed commercially, Digital Extremes remained dependent on contract work and struggled to establish a successful self-owned franchise. Publishers rejected Warframe. In 2012, the team revived many of their original Dark Sector ideas and pitched what would become Warframe. Most publishers turned it down because free-to-play games were still viewed skeptically on PC in the West. They said Space Ninjas sounded like an odd commercial concept, and publishers doubted that players would even spend money on the game. According to interviews, nearly every publisher they approached rejected the project, with some saying it would outright fail, which led to Digital Extremes being left on their own without a publishing studio. And why would a publishing studio back it? On release, the game was dry, bare bones. It had a direction, but lacked the soul and essence it initially needed. Without publisher funding, the company invested much of its remaining resources into the project, causing several of their other releases to fail at generating enough revenue. Layoffs occurred, morale dropped, and the future of the company became uncertain. Former studio leaders have described Warframe as a Hail Mary project. Steve Sinclair later remarked that in the game's development, it often felt like they were only 4 to 6 months away from annihilation, reflecting how poor the studio's finances were during that period. Warframe had its slow start when it launched in March of 2013. Reviews were mixed, player numbers weren't where they hoped, and there was no guarantee the game would even survive. It also had to compete with Destiny's meteoric rise in the media, almost dooming it from the start, living in its counterpart's shadow. Instead of abandoning it, Digital Extremes commit to their Hail Mary play and continued releasing updates. While communicating directly with the players through live streams and forums, they rapidly adjusted systems based on community feedback, and reinvested revenue back into their development. Over the next several years, the player base grew steadily. Major updates like cinematic story quests and later open-world expansions dramatically increased the game's popularity. And finally, Warframe evolved into one of the longest-running and most successful live service games. They have been able to retain ownership and creative control over Warframe through today, where they have started development on Soulframe alongside the continued support of Warframe. From my understanding, it's largely thanks to the extreme support of fans. According to some of the players I've met that played during Warframe's formative years, players literally paying to keep DE's doors open with in-game purchases. Of course, this is word of mouth and anecdotal at best, having happened literally over a decade ago, but looking at the history of this game, it doesn't seem that far-fetched. The player base respected the company, the project, and actively decided to support it for years to come, which I hope holds a message to other studios and companies in the modern gaming space today. I've been playing games my whole life. I still remember being sat down when I had to have been like 4 years old, in front of an Xbox playing games with my dad. Since those days, as I've grown up, my passion and love for gaming as a whole has skyrocketed. I played countless games from Minecraft and Pokemon to GTA and Elden Ring, as well as a deep infatuation of competitive FPS games. A few years ago, I took my first dive into the real RPG experience and got Destiny to play with my best friend. I put something like 500 hours into it and fell in love. The vastness of the solar system, the unique enemies, the weapons, the complex raids and dungeons, it felt like every step of the way I was being introduced to a whole new game. Until eventually it grew old. I had killed that enemy, got that weapon, completed that raid. The game grew stale. Destiny has a special place in my heart. And even with all the negativity I've talked about, I don't hate the game, but it really did serve as a stepping stone for the type of games I enjoy the most today, which leads me to the experience with the game. I love Warframe. From the quest to the collecting, this game is without a doubt a masterpiece. It's been a game I can get on and genuinely call home, a place to relax and enjoy my time. Since I only recently got into the game just a few weeks ago, there's seemingly endless content to catch up on, where everything is still new and fresh, and it hits a spot that's never been hit by any other game. Warframe has so many things to offer, I would literally be here for hours trying to explain it all in depth. There are 117 different Warframes that all have unique abilities and playstyles. Everything has its purpose, and every different frame suits different challenges. Titania's balance between speed and damage for the quick clears, Wukong's stealth for spy missions or breaching enemy vaults undetected, Revenant's immortality for endless missions reaching levels over 50 times higher than most other missions ever will. You are literally a machine built to unleash death on anything that is unlucky enough to step into your path. I mean, imagine being a corpus worker on a ship making ends meet, when suddenly you hear an explosion and a literal spiritual being that's also a death robot that is a werewolf for some reason goes invisible, then launches at you at Mach 10 from 50 meters away, and it's just lights out. That's it. Which leads me to the arsenal of weapons. There are over 900 that vary from useless scrap to beams of light that freeze enemies solid, or a shotgun that shoots glaives that bounce enemy to enemy, eviscerating everything in the room. And then after that, some weapons, not all, but some, get what's called an incarnate upgrade that just make it like the next evolution of what it even means to be a weapon. Like, after using some of the incarnates, it feels like going back to a regular weapon might as well be the equivalent of picking up a stone spear millions of years ago. Cosmetics. My beloved, what every Warframe player considers the true endgame experience. Dozens of hours scrolling through a catalog of an ungodly amount of tiny additions or trinkets to add to any and every frame to set yourself apart from everyone else. I mean, the customization is unbelievable in this game, as well as what players call IKEA frame, which is basically customizing your ship or apartment to the exact way you want it, whether you're sectioning off rooms and role-playing a real living space, or whatever this is. It is truly unreal how much variety this game has to offer at the higher end of its experience. Which is where the obligatory part of this video comes, where I have to talk about, yes, this game is free, every part start to finish, from cosmetics to progression. I'm not going to get super into it, it's probably the most talked about aspect of the game, something I and every other unemployed chud loves and respects. But again, if you've heard of Warframe, you've probably heard about how it's free. I'd also like to mention that even if you do like supporting DE or have the money to spend, they rarely even ask you to pay that much. They offer discounts for their premium currency frequently through the daily logins. I've been playing for 3 going on 4 weeks, and I've gotten 3 discounts anywhere from 50% off to even 75% off, which is a nice little gesture to the players in good faith. Or it's just evil marketing, I can't really tell, and honestly don't really care. Next up is the stories, and oh man, this game has me by the balls. It opens with you, the Tenno, being surged back to life and reanimated once again inside the Warframe of your choosing between the 3 starters. This eye-peeling intensity does not end. Pretty early on, there's this horror quest that I don't want to spoil, but is genuinely one of my favorites in the entire story. Then boom, what feels like the next second after that quest, you're now snapped into an alternate reality where you pilot an older version of yourself and have to escape this time loop, and it's like this ankle-breaking storytelling that I just love. It keeps it fresh, allows some pretty funky pacing, which admittedly does come with its flaws that I'll get into another time, but even for someone like me who's not typically a story game connoisseur, I didn't want to put it down, and I was really sad when it was all finished. Lastly, I want to just lightning round some of the other cool and interesting content, like hunting, fishing, pet breeding, Sea of Thieves, open world exploration, mining, bounties, faction rep, sim dating, and most of all, boss hunting, as well as this roguelike game mode, all of which keeps the grinds fresh for the most part, which I will say is 99% of this game. This is literally like RuneScape, but space, alien machinery, and weapons of mass destruction. The grind has an estimated 2,500 hours according to AI Overview, and that would get you to the highest level, but the leveling system is a conversation for, again, another time. All in all, Warframe to me has set such an amazing example for what it's like to have a passionate studio behind a game, and a player base that genuinely cares. I hope this game stays for years to come, and I'm so glad that after all this time, I gave it the chance it truly deserved. Thank you to everyone for watching, and thank you to DE for never giving up.